Paratmanamekam Jagadbijamadyam Niriham Nirakaram Omkar Vidyam Yato Jayate Palyate Yena Vishvam Tamisham Bhaje Liyate Yatra Vishvam Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukhaswarupaya Swami Netapaharini Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. My humble pranams to revered Swami Shantatmananji Maharaj, Swami Vishwatmanandaji Maharaj, and my namaskars to other Swamis seated here, and my namaskars and good wishes to all of you, dear devotees. Today we are discussing about this great personality whom we know as Swami Vivekananda. Just now we heard a very good introduction given by Maharaj in a brief manner as to the central thing which we find in Swami Vivekananda's life. I shall try to focus on one specific aspect of Vivekananda's life because we have just 35 minutes with us and it is impossible to talk about Vivekananda in his entirety in a matter of 35 minutes. So we can just touch upon one or two aspects of his personality and his life. At a certain moment, Sri Ramakrishna had made a very important observation about Narendranath, who had not then become Swami Vivekananda. What was his observation? Sri Ramakrishna said, a time will come when he will shake the world to its foundation through the strength of his intellectual and spiritual powers. This Sri Ramakrishna was telling when Naren had not become Swami Vivekananda. Once again, I repeat this observation made by Sri Ramakrishna. He says, a time will come when he will shake the world to its foundation through the strength of his intellectual and spiritual powers. Now, this personality whom we are referring to as Swami Vivekananda was actually a tremendous treasure house, a limitless treasure house of spiritual power which came down to this human plane for the well-being of the entire human race. Now, we all know in our Shastras, it is very clearly stated that this entire world is the manifestation of Brahman. All its creatures, this entire Jagat, it's all Brahman which is manifesting in these forms. But Brahman has got two kinds of manifestations. One is the ordinary, general manifestation. We all belong to that category. We are also manifestations of the same Brahman, Sat Chit Anandam Ekameva Dvitiyam Brahma, which manifests in the form of all the creatures in this world which we are experiencing. But there is another kind of a manifestation which is referred to as a special manifestation. Now, what happens in this special manifestation of Brahman is that when this manifestation takes place, that manifestation or that appearance of a special form is endowed with limitless spiritual power, knowledge and brilliance. Now, Vivekananda is that special manifestation of this Brahma, which has come for a specific purpose. He is that special manifestation. And this power gets manifested at the right time when the human society actually needs it. So, in a sense, we can compare Vivekananda to be like a spiritual avalanche. What is an avalanche? Avalanche, we all know, there is a huge mountain of ice and snow, and when this huge mountain of ice and snow, when it begins to melt, it begins to slide down the slopes of the mountain and it begins to wash away everything that comes on its path. We all have seen the scenes of avalanche, how terrifying it can be. A huge mountain of ice and snow melting and coming down with a great power, and everything that comes on its way gets washed away. Vivekananda is that kind of a spiritual avalanche. He is actually a huge mountain of spiritual power. We can say solidified spiritual power, which melts from the Saptarishi Loka. It melts and it begins to slide down towards the Bhuloka or the plane of human beings. And finally it gushes forth and bursts forth on the entire human race for the sake of the well-being of one and all. So Vivekananda is that tremendous spiritual power which has come down from a totally different plane of existence. What is referred to as Saptarishi Mandal, a different loka, and from there it has come down to Bhuloka, this plane of mortal existence, to accomplish a specific mission. Now, an interesting thing is that, did Naren always know? Was he always aware of the fact that he is actually the manifestation of that infinite power? This is a very interesting question. In answer to this question, we will see that in Vivekananda's life we find two phases. There was a phase of life where we find that he doesn't know actually what was his mission. He is not aware of the fact that he is actually that infinite power which has come down for a specific mission for the welfare of the entire human race. He is not aware of that. And there is a second phase where it becomes very clear. His mission becomes very clear. He understands what is the main purpose of his advent. Let us just look into a few incidents so this point becomes very clear. In his childhood, we all know as a small boy, this Naren, you can see the spiritual power bubbling in him. It is waiting to manifest in different ways, but the right time has to come. The right moment has to arrive for this huge power to release itself. But we can see right from his childhood, right from the day he was born, actually a huge storehouse of power was bubbling in his every single activity and event of his life. As a small boy, we all know that what happens. Bhuvaneshwari Devi finds it very difficult to manage this small boy. So restless and unmanageable. And whenever Bhuvaneshwari Devi would find that it is becoming very difficult and is so uncontrollable, what she would do is, she would pour some water on the head of this small boy, saying Shiva, 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 Shiva. And the boy would become calm. You can see that tremendous power waiting to come out. It is bubbling inside, throbbing inside the small boy right from the day he was born. It is said that once in his house, as a small boy, he fell down from the stairs. Sri Ramakrishna refers to this incident. And after the fall, what happened is he got a wound on his head, and due to that wound, lot of blood was lost. Sri Ramakrishna says it is good that lot of blood was lost. In and through that, actually what had happened was some amount of power was released. Otherwise, Sri Ramakrishna says we don't know what this man would have done. See, these are all indications of what was actually inside this person called Narendranath. Who could understand that? Did his parents understand that? Did his friends and the society in which he lived, they understood it? But interestingly, there was a power which was working in the form of Narendranath and waiting for the right moment to come for the power to burst forth on the human society for the well-being of the entire human race. Coming down to Sri Ramakrishna, you can see this continuing. Naren doesn't know what is inside him at that time. He himself is completely in dark, but he's a tremendously restless person. He himself sometimes is unable to control the tremendous surge of spiritual power inside him. When it comes to Sri Ramakrishna for the first time, we all know that very famous incident. At the very first instance, Sri Ramakrishna says, seeing Narendranath, he says, you are that Nara, the incarnation of Narayana, who has come down to this world for the well-being of the entire human race. Did Naren know this about it? He totally rejects it. Sri Ramakrishna sees, he knows what is inside this Naren, what is that power which has come down in the form of Narendranath. And Sri Ramakrishna is saying, you are that Nara, the incarnation of Narayana, and you have come down to fulfill a very specific mission. Narendranath flatly rejects this idea. He is not able to understand this point at that point of time. A group of devotees sitting in front of Sri Ramakrishna, we all know. In that, Keshav Chandra Sen is sitting, Vijay Krishna Goswami, and other Brahmo leaders. They are all seated in that gathering. And Sri Ramakrishna is talking to them. Naren also is present there. And he is looking at Keshav Chandra Sen, and he is also casting his glance on this young boy called Naren. And mentally he is just thinking the difference between Keshav Chandra Sen and Naren. And later on, when the gathering was dispersed, when other devotees were there, to them Sri Ramakrishna is expressing and telling, you see, in Keshav Chandra Sen at that time was already a world famous figure, just imagine. In India and even in England, he was a very world famous, he was well known for his oratory and for his intellectual attainments. Sri Ramakrishna is telling to the devotees that in Keshav, I see one sign of greatness which has made him so popular all over the world. But in Narendranath, I see 18 such signs of greatness. He says that in Vijay Krishna Goswami and Keshav Chandra Sen, the light of knowledge is shining like a flame of the candle. But in Narendranath, I see the light of knowledge is shining like midday scorching sun. Look at the comparison, it's so beautiful it is. Keshav is described to be a candle flame, whereas Vivekananda, Sri Ramakrishna describes as a midday scorching sun. Just visualize, on the one side we have a candle flame, on the other side we see the midday scorching sun. See the difference. Sri Ramakrishna is saying what Narendranath is, but Narendranath himself didn't know about it. It's a very interesting and fascinating aspect of Vivekananda's life. Then Sri Ramakrishna says that at the proper time, my siddhis will walk through you. Sri Ramakrishna is telling this to Naren, and Naren will teach the world. When Sri Ramakrishna was telling all these things, Naren would not even listen to it. He would not give any importance to these things which Sri Ramakrishna would utter. Many people used to think perhaps because of Sri Ramakrishna's extreme love for Narendranath, he is just saying all these things. Emotionally, often we speak about those persons whom we love in this manner. So nobody perhaps at that time took Sri Ramakrishna's words very seriously, and definitely not Narendranath. Then Sri Ramakrishna says, you see, you will have to do my work. You have a special mission, and you will have to do my work. And Narendranath says, no, I won't do it. Sri Ramakrishna says, your very bones will do it. Again, Narendranath doesn't know what is inside him and what is the purpose of his advent. Then finally, we come across this wonderful statement. Well, Sri Ramakrishna says about Narendranath that, you see, the day Narendranath will realize his absolute nature, he won't be able to continue in this body even for one more moment. That's why Sri Ramakrishna had prayed to the Divine Mother, saying that let this knowledge of the absolute remain veiled from him. The day he will understand who is he in his true nature, he is not going to continue in this body anymore. So there was something which was hiding this great fact about who actually he was, so that something was supposed to be accomplished in this world. So in this way we find a particular phase in Narendranath's life where this great mountain of spiritual power, which had come down in the form of Swami Vivekananda, it was not known to this person himself, though it was existing and throbbing inside him. Then we come to the second phase. Interesting, very interesting. Second phase starts from, we all know, after the passing away of Sri Ramakrishna in 1886, when Swamiji went all over India, his peregrination all over India. The first sign, now the whole scenario changes. Now slowly, Narendranath, even now he is Narendranath, he has not become Vivekananda. Narendranath writes a letter to one of his friends, a very important point. Now slowly, he is beginning to understand that there is something inside him which is waiting to come out. There is some mission for which he is actually living. This idea now becomes clear to him. First time he writes a letter to one of his friends where he says, I am now going, and I shall not come back till I burst upon the society like a bomb and make it follow me like a dog. This he writes perhaps in 1890. Just imagine, 1886, Sri Ramakrishna had passed away. And within 3-4 years, now slowly this awareness is dawning inside Narendranath that he is born to fulfill some mission, and there is a tremendous power in him. The first time he writes this to his friend that I am going now, and I shall not come back till I burst upon the society like a bomb and make it follow me like a dog. But just imagine, at that time he was just a penniless sannyasi. How could he write like this so confidently? He's saying that I am going away and I am coming back and I will burst upon the society like a bomb. Now that Narendranath, which earlier didn't understand what was inside him, now he starts to realize what is that power which is going to work for the well-being of the entire human race. Then, in his peregrination, somewhere in the Western India, when he meets his brother disciple, Swami Turiyanandaji, there Swami Vivekananda expresses his heart's view Already he has come to know about the Parliament of Religions, which is going to be organized in America. And Narendranath at that time, perhaps Vivekananda at that time, he tells this to Turiyanandaji, कि Hari Bhai, that great congregation which is being organized in America, that is being organized for this and this alone. Touching his chest, he says, that great Parliament of Religions which is being organized there, it is actually meant for this and this alone. Just imagine. Now Narendranath is slowly understanding that there is something great which is going to be accomplished through him. He is understanding the power which is pulsating inside him. And he says sometimes, he told this to Hari Bhai, Turiyanandaji, that Hari Bhai, that sometimes I feel that there is so much power inside me. I feel as if my body and the mind, my body would simply burst. So this is the kind of awareness now comes in Vivekananda about what actually he is made up of and the mission which he has to accomplish. Now, in this way, then finally we come to that great event, 11 September 1893. That great mountain of spiritual power, the solidified spiritual power which has come down from the Saptarishi Loka down to this human plane, the Bhuloka, and on that day this avalanche, this spiritual avalanche bursts forth. The floodgates are open, and that great power of spirituality and wisdom comes out of this framework called Swami Vivekananda and bursts forth on the society. The floodgates are open and this avalanche is now flowing. And since that day, I always say that this is the turning point event of the modern times. A turning point event because the impact of that event is seen even today, and it will be seen for next 1,000, 1,500 years. Swami Vivekananda himself speaks about it in that way. So we see that 1893, 11 September, that great event when this for the first time, that spiritual power now burst forth on the society for the sake of the well-being of the entire human race. And from then onwards, now it was very clear for Vivekananda. He understood that he has got a great mission to accomplish. Before that, at many moments, he had doubt in his mind. Why is he existing? What is his mission? Sri Ramakrishna has told that you have to do mother's work. Sometimes it would become clear, sometimes it would be hidden. So this kind of a hide and seek was going on for quite some time. Then after 1893, in 1896, a very important thing happens. That is when he was in the West, then he makes a beautiful remark. Now his mission is very clear to him. Just see his statements, what he says there. There Swami Vivekananda says that this time I will have to do much more difficult work compared to earlier time. These are his words. He says, this time I will have to do much more difficult work than my earlier advent. That means this is that power which comes down time to time, whenever the human society needs it. And then he says, in America, I have just now started my work. I have raised just 1 or 2 waves. We have to raise a tidal wave. The society has to be turned upside down. The world has to be given a new civilization. Just look at his words. Now his mission is very clear before his eyes. Earlier there was a phase when nothing was clear to him. Even when Sri Ramakrishna told him that you will be teaching the entire world, he would just brush it aside. And now that very Vivekananda, when he has understood that he has got a mission to fulfill, he now says that, see, I have just started my work in America. In America, I have just raised 1 or 2 waves. We have to raise a tidal wave. The society has to be turned upside down and the world has to be given a new civilization. See the clarity of his mission. So beautiful. The world has to be given a new civilization. Vivekananda understands that is the very purpose of his advent. What is this new civilization that he is talking about? This new civilization which he is talking about is a civilization which will be based upon the principles of spirituality. 19th century world, This India where it was completely materialism which was dominating the human society. To such a materialistic human society, Swami Vivekananda wanted to give the basis and foundation of spirituality. This is the new civilization which Vivekananda was talking about. And then we come across, after his work in the West, Swamiji comes back to India, 1897, we all know. After coming to India, he first starts the Ramakrishna Mission in 1897. Then the very next year, in 1898, the Belur Mutt ground is procured and the mutt is built there. And standing on that mutt ground, just imagine now how clear the mission is before his eyes. He says that the power that will emanate from this Belur Mutt, it is going to pervade the entire world and it will impact the human society in very deep ways. He says this Belur Mutt is going to be a center of spiritual learning, great center of spiritual learning. Now he is seeing this. And interestingly, when he told this to one of his brahmacharis, the brahmachari expressed doubt in his mind. He thought that Swamiji is just fancying. Just imagine, we are talking about 1898. At that time, Ramakrishna Mission had not become as it is today. It's worldwide. It's a movement and so well grounded and solidly established. That was just the incipient stage of this movement. Nothing was there at that time, 1898, when Vivekananda was talking about Belur Mutt in this fashion. He was saying that this Belur Mutt is going to be a great center of spiritual learning. The brahmachari expressed doubt. He thought that Vivekananda is just fancying about it. So Vivekananda says that no, I am not fancying. Don't think it is just a kalpana. I am seeing it. And then Vivekananda finally says that I have given enough for 1500 years. 1500 years. That mountain of spiritual power, again let me refer to that incident, that mountain of spiritual power which has come down from the Saptarishi Loka, a different plane, high plane of existence, it has come down and it is manifesting in the form of Swami Vivekananda for the sake of the entire human race. And that spiritual power is going to work for the next 1500 years. Vivekananda says, I have given enough for the next 1500 years. This was Vivekananda's observation, the foresight about what is going to come. And he was seeing that great changes are going to come in human society in the coming centuries. Finally, there is one very important observation about which we need to actually make a mention here. Vivekananda says, see, after all this wonderful Leela, Brahman's Leela in a particular human form, starting from his birth till the end of his life in 1902, what great things he accomplished within his short span of 39 years, and especially his active life, which was hardly just 9 years. In that, what he accomplished, it will take centuries for the human race to understand what he has given to the human society from different standpoints. So that very Vivekananda, who had done such great things, about which Vivekananda had told that only another Vivekananda will be able to understand what this Vivekananda has done. So that Vivekananda says finally one thing, beautiful thing. He says that, you see, my name should not be made prominent. What I want to see is, I want to see my ideas realized. A very important point. Swamiji says, my name is not important. My name should not be made prominent. What I really want to see is, I want to see my ideas realized. This is a very important point which all the devotees of Swami Vivekananda or Sri Ramakrishna have to understand and take it seriously. What is this realization of the ideas which Vivekananda has given? What was that idea which Vivekananda gave to the entire human race? That is the question. Swamiji puts it in a very simple language. Swamiji says, my ideas can be put into a few words to preach unto humanity their divinity and how to make it manifest in every moment of life. Once again, I repeat this. Swamiji says, my ideas can be put into a few words to to preach unto humanity their divinity and how to make it manifest in every moment of their life. Divinization of the entire human race, to teach unto the humanity that everybody is divine, every man, every woman is divine. There is nothing but divinity. To preach this was the only sole mission of Swami Vivekananda, and this is the mission of all the avatars. This is not something new that is happening in the history of humanity. This has happened several times in the past. This is the latest manifestation of that infinite spiritual power which comes time to time when the society needs it. So what is this idea? Spiritualization, divinization of the entire human race. Vivekananda says, teach yourself, teach everyone his real nature, call upon the sleeping soul and see how it awakens. Power will come, goodness will come, glory will come, purity will come, everything that is excellent will come when the sleeping soul is roused to self-conscious activity. Fiery words of this great prophet of the modern times. Swamiji says, teach yourself. The only job that we have is to, first of all, put Swami Vivekananda's ideas into practice in our day-to-day life. That is more important. That is what I said. Swamiji says that don't make my name prominent. I want to see my ideas realized. It's a very important point. What is that realization or actualization of Vivekananda's ideas? That actualization means making ourselves spiritual, realizing our spiritual nature. Spirituality is nothing, to put in a very simple manner, Vivekananda's own words. Each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to realize this divinity by controlling nature, external and internal. Do it either by work, prayer, philosophy, or psychic control. One or more, or all of them, and be free. This is the whole main purpose of human life. To become free, free from bondage, free from sufferings and miseries of life. How can you do it? Manifest this divinity. What is this divinity? Atman. Atman is this divinity. Swami Vivekananda's only one mission was to tell the whole world about this throbbing reality called Atman in our hearts and to awaken it. That is what Vivekananda says. Teach yourself about the Atman. Teach everyone about the Atman. Call upon the sleeping soul and see how this Atman consciousness awakens. And when this Atman consciousness awakens, what is going to happen is power will come, glory will come, goodness will come, purity will come. Everything that is excellent is bound to come when the sleeping Atman consciousness is awakened to self-conscious activity. What a beautiful message. So this is what we need to understand in Vivekananda's life. There was a two-phase in his life. One phase when this great spiritual power called Vivekananda was not aware about the existence of this great power inside him, and he was not even ready to accept it. That was still Sri Ramakrishna's leaving of his mortal coil. After Sri Ramakrishna's passing away, another phase comes when slowly this knowledge dawns in Swami Vivekananda, where he comes to understand that there is a tremendous spiritual power hidden inside him, and he has come for a very specific, very particular mission. It becomes clear gradually, slowly. And finally, when he stands on the pedestal of that Chicago Parliament of Religions, that was the time when this spiritual avalanche finally burst forth and fell upon the human society to dispel the last vestige of darkness and ignorance in the society. That was the great moment. That is a turning point event in the modern history of humanity. And finally, we come to this very important point. Then the whole of Vivekananda's mission started. Today, if we are sitting here and having this session, just imagine it is only because of that spiritual avalanche which has come down to dispel the darkness called materialism. Without that, we would not have been having this gathering here. Today we are discussing about spirituality, and we have all the Shastras being revived. This great revival of the Shastras, the Vaidika Dharma, that is the main mission of this great personality called Vivekananda. And in short, once again I repeat, Vivekananda's that important point is very significant, where he says that I want to see my ideas realized. My name is not prominent. That is, it should not be made prominent. That is not very important. But what is really important is to see my ideas realized. Thank you so much.